What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'll be making a full review for the Romancing Festival Liam banner that brings back some of the protagonists from the second arc. Here we have Liam as a damage dealer but also party buffer, and that does not rely on LP for his nukes. Then we have Anya that is now a damage dealer but also a buffer for both offense and defense status. Then we have Darius that is a very heavy buffer for STR and dexterity, for remembrance and even some hard challenges, and Candy that is just a farmer. We'll start talking about Liam because he gives a name to the banner, and they buffed Liam by a lot when compared to JP. His dexterity is just 122, that's just 1 point different from his third style, but we have very similar endurance in Will as well, as you can see, just a little higher endurance. His agility is not that great, but it's okay. He is not the best character to go first anyway. Sometimes you want to use other cards that will increase damage potential of Liam. And having just 90% will is good enough, especially because of one of his passives. Moving for passives, we have Honest Conviction that reduces damage taken by 30% at all time. He also recovers HP by the end of every turn by around 250. Will cleanse himself from all status ailments. That's super important in some fights like stage 180 and Spiral. And we will also remove all the buffs applied to his status. That means that he's now a robot, because this type of passive comes from robots, maybe a cyborg. Then when he is killed, he will revive once with 50% of his HP. The second passive buffs all surviving allies dexterity and will on the start of a turn by 15%, and also gives him 2 BP, essentially making him a 5 BP per turn character. But man, buffing dexterity and will every single turn by 15% is actually awesome. That's something that Final Empress got in her latest style, and she's very strong. And in her case, it's both endurance and will. In the case of Liam, it's dexterity and will. And will is always better to buff than endurance, since you can also protect yourself versus ailments and debuffs. By buffing dexterity, you are now buffing your own damage and the damage of other people in your party as well. You can use the Here Guard Focus formation, for example, place Liam in the back row with someone else that uses dexterity, and the damage will be very high, especially since you are buffing on start of turn and not after you attack. Well, he also gets 30% increase in damage at all times and 25% chance to evade when being attacked. That's very good when you also inherit a bullet, that I'll be talking in a few. Then we have Targeted Shot, that's a power attack with 4 BP cost. That means that he can use it anytime he wants. That can inflict instant kill, so it's useful for Siegfried if you don't have any other instant killer, and it's critical versus human. The second skill is called Armored Cannon. It's a single target blunt attack that will do SSS power with 9 BP cost. So you can actually use this every 2 turns. And will also cast Guard Up Medium that lasts for 3 turns. This is actually very good. Why? Because most of the recent buffers that buff defense use defense boost. Defense boost stacks with other stances of defense boost. Guard Up is something that does not stack. Well, I can only think about Let's Paint Gustav using Guard Up in his skill, but most of the other options is just defense boost, like Empress, Death, and many others, or via their own passives like Screw Guard. That means that he will have a second layer of defense. He already decreases damage taken by 30, and now he decreases it further by 25%. Now, the third skill is Convert Weapon. That's a support that can only be used once per battle, that will grant him a follow-up attack that will happen any time that he attacks, and will trigger Anti-Material Shot. Well, I don't know if you remember, but that is the first nuke from his first style. Remember this attack here? That costed only 8, was one of the first skills to have SSS power and 8 PP cost, and it has a chance to debuff the endurance of the enemy by 30%. If he does debuff, it will increase the damage of the follow-up characters and other attacks, but debuffing endurance is not even that important. Now, 10 BP on JP was actually 17. That was a big problem because he needed turns in order to get ready. Now you start the fight, you use this Convert Weapon, and then you are going to chase anytime. Let's say that you use a normal attack, you're going to chase and you will do similar damage to 4S attacks. every single turn, at least for blunt, because he will be a main blunt damage dealer. But now, let's talk about a character that we have in the game right now that also has very good chases. That's Christmas Acelus. Remember? She has a guarantee A power attack and a 37% chance to chase with a triple S power attack. 37% chance to chase. That's why I'm saying that Liam chase is just so strong. And, well, now Liam is also a character that does not rely on LP to be a damage dealer. After you use a convert weapon, then on the second turn you're going to use a normal attack, you will chase. On the third turn you're going to use Armored Cannon. That will grant him Guard Up. Since he gets 5 PP per turn, he can actually use this every 2 turns and always have the Guard Up medium, even if he's placed on the back row of Rear Guard Focus Formation. So, he can use it for fights like Stage 180 from Spiral and work just fine as he is. But he can also become even better for very long fights like Aberration Supreme. Now, if you have his third style, that's this one here, and you can inherit Frozen Revolver. Frozen Revolver will give him a chase of Frozen Chaser that uses 1 LP, costs only 4 to cast, so he always has enough. But when you attack with this skill, you have a 25% chance to guarantee a damage block. Damage block means that he does not take damage. This will stack and has no turn limit. But then we come with a problem, because you'll be spending more time to get Liam ready. You have to use turn 1 for your converted weapon and then 5 turns to get your Frozen Revolver. That means that he is only ready to attack by turn 7. In some very long fights that's okay, but for some other types of fights that's way too much time. But you have now flexibility. If you want extreme damage, just go for turn 7. If you just want to start well and then load some bullets later, it's okay as well. Let's say Spiral 180. You have to do damage on odd turns. So on even turns, load another bullet and just keep doing this till your Liam is ready and he's gonna crush Time Lord. Now, if you don't have any other premium style of Liam, you can just go and inherit Ice Revolver from his S style. That will give you access to this Ice Chaser. That is an attack that is actually just very similar to a normal one, where you get this effect called Guard Down when you attack, that decreases the defense of the enemy by 15%. So 1 bullet is enough to increase a little bit of your damage if you want. And then you can just keep using his skill number 2 for damage and Guard Up. But if you have his premium style, the first one, you can inherit Wind Revolver. That will instead give him access to this Wind Chaser. That is also Slash and also recovers 1 BP every time you attack. BP is good because eventually he will be able to just keep using a triple S main attack, followed up by another triple S attack and all the other bullets that you have been storing. So, it takes time to build up, but he becomes a slash damage dealer with very good damage potential. And if you have his second style, I don't think this one matters too much, but you can inherit Attack Revolver. That is a blunt attack that becomes stronger the more you attack. Because this bullet here gives you attack boost for 1 turn. Each new bullet deals more, but it's just full blunt. It works just fine, but I do believe that the best inheritance comes from his third style, because the third style gives him access to Frozen Revolver, like I said, and Frozen Revolver becomes blunt and cold. It's just D power, okay, but it recovers 1 BP when you attack. That means that you will also be able to open with triple S attack, then follow with another triple S attack, and all the bullets that you store it. And you can even go for just 4 bullets, you have 5 BP, and then 4 BP via Frozen Chaser, a total of 9. And he has 25% chance to trigger damage block with no turn limit. The more he gets this, the easier it will be for him to survive. Remember that he already has that 25% chance to evade. So if he evades, he does not waste the damage block. So now you see how many different setups you can use with Liam if you have been collecting his styles. A blunt, slash, and cold damage dealer with very good potential that just became even better. Best Liam right now will be this one because of the support buff. Well, buffing dexterity will every turn is amazing, especially on fights where you need extra will support. But if you want a faster damage dealer, just inherit anti-material shot chase into his third style and you still have very good results. With all that said, this Liam is a master of damage, and he totally deserves an OP grade in the tier list even without inheritance. He is just that good. With inheritance, he becomes much better. I do believe that he's worth to pull. If you don't have any version of Liam, it's good to start collecting because he has a gameplay and future style that I need to discuss right now. So Summer Liam will be released in the future, maybe just 6 months from now, and he is crazy. He starts the fight with all bullets that he can load with all of his styles. That is, Attack Revolver, the one that gives him attack boost. Wind Revolver, the one that gives him access to blunt and slash. Frozen Revolver, the one that gives him access to blunt and cold. Then Anti-Material Shot from the current style, and also Ice Chaser. All bullets come with a price. You will lose 3 LP, and all chases only last for 10 turns. Now, okay, you can still inherit another Anti-Material Shot. So he will open the fight, and you will not have enough BP. You have to use this normal attack in the second turn. But you will have 2 triple S attack chases, and 1 C power chase, 2 D power chases, and 1 E power chase. All of this in 1 attack, and for 9 attacks. Imagine the amount of damage you can get with this Liam. And he even has damage reduction via his Gun Intrinsic 4. So, it's a very strong character that will help you clear some stages that have way too many gimmicks and you need to defeat the boss as fast as possible. Just like Spiral 180. The next character is Anya, and she has a hybrid design, so 120% dexterity, 120% intelligence, same values, and 99% agility, so she's even a little fast. With 91% will, that's good enough to survive ailments in boss fights, and she even has buffs. I'll talk about that later, but endurance is just 66%, the only status that suffers a little. But that doesn't mean she takes big damage. Moving for passives, we have 13 BP when we start, and on start of a round, she's gonna buff all status by 15%. This helps even in boss fights so that you have extra will on start, and even endurance. When she lands an attack, she buffs STR, dexterity, and intelligence by 5%. Actually, 10, because she always chases with Great Fall. That is an 8 power attack that deals both pierce and some damage. So, a free chase that happens all the time that will also allow her to buff 10% of 3 different offensive status. She works super well with the Here Guard Focus formation because that formation increases those 3 status as well. And Great Fall being a guaranteed chase, it's pretty awesome, very similar to what you get with Ocelus as well. And they are both rapier users. Ocelus has an extra chance to chase with triple S power attack, but that's 37% of the time. But now, moving back to Anya. She has 30% increase in damage at all times, and reduces damage taken at all times as well by 30%. Second passive is crazy. When attacking, she recovers 1 BP. Since she always chases, she gets 5 BP per turn. Now, when she uses a skill attack, that is, rapier attacks, she will grant herself attack boost that increases damage potential by 15%, lasts for 3 turns, and stacks. And will also buff all surviving allies endurance by 15%. That's pretty similar to what Razan does. But, well, it just makes her an even better damage dealer. If you are using rapier attack as your command, and you will chase with another rapier attack, that means that you got a 30% effect from attack boost, and you buffed endurance of all allies by 30%. That really helps survive some damage. Now, when she attacks with spells, those are the sun element attacks. She needs a rapier with the sun element. She got one in the past, and you can craft one as well. she will grant herself a defense boost that decreases damage taken by 15% and lasts for 3 turns and stacks. She will then also buff all surviving alliance will by 15% too. So, because she always chases with Great Fall, that means that she always have this effect at least. You can choose if you want to use a spell or a rapier attack to get the extra will and the extra defense if you need or if you want. Now, to fully understand this, we have to check the skills. The first one is a spell, Loose. So that will trigger first the defense boost, will buff, and then you chase with Great Fall to trigger the attack boost and the endurance buff. So you have 15% buff to endurance and will to the party in that case. This skill will also cast Morale up small, increasing her damage potential by 15% and lasts for 2 turns. Then she launches an attack that will feel more in line to a C power attack, and that will also increase the damage of Great Fall because, well, it's a chase attack that's used later. There is also Holy. It's a full AoE attack that is critical to undeads and demons, and it has a power. Well, for 10 BP, it's not bad, but it's also the less important skill because, well, you need many enemies on the field, maybe on remembrance battles, but it's usually not worth. The third attack is Eclat the UniverSe. This one is a single target attack with pierce and stun damage that hits 5 times random targets, so if there's just one enemy, all 5 hits will be in that enemy, and she still chases with Great Fall. In this case, she would trigger the attack boost 2 times and the endurance effect 2 times. Still getting 5 EP per turn, that means that you can open the fight, for example, with Loose, then you can use Eclat the UniverSe, and then you have to use Loose 2 times to be able to go back to Eclat the UniverSe. Damage will still be nice because remember that every time that she attacks, she buffs STR, Dexterity, and Intelligence of everyone in the party by 10%. It's a small job of increasing the damage potential of everyone, including herself. But Anya gets much better via inheritance. If you have her first style, you have a Toildor. That is a single target spell that will then buff will by 15% and also her defenses. And then it has attack down that will decrease damage taken by 15%, and it will also remove all buffs the enemy has applied. We call this buff break. The attack itself costs 6 BP and has a power. 6 BP is nice because she actually gets 5 and starts with 13. She can use this many times in a row before she has to stop for 1 turn only. And it has a power, followed up by another A power attack. This is like having triple S power every turn alongside decreasing damage taken by 15%, removing all buffs from the enemy, and still having 10% STR Dexterity and Intelligence buff alongside 15% will buff, 15% endurance buff, and her attack boost and defense boost. Having defense boost will allow her to survive since she is a support unit. You want her to be alive at all times. Now, besides the Toildor, if you don't have any premium style, you can inherit either Starlight Heal for some emergency healing, but I don't like this because it's not an attack. You can also inherit Golden Note Plus. With Golden Note Plus, you have a cycle of damage where you can, for example, open the fight with Loose to cast Morale up, and then you will use your Golden Note Plus because it will be affected by the Morale up, and you always have your chases, so even just this has a very good damage potential. But if you have her second premium style, there is also Quatre Luminaire, a 10 BP skill that applies attack down for 2 turns and defense down for 2 turns. The attack down effect is nice because this decreases damage taken by 15%, still needs to go before the enemy, and she can keep a full cycle of spells with her Loose and then Quatre Luminaire. 15% buffs to endurance and will happen as well. You can also inherit Starlight Grace, that is a recover spell that uses 5 BP, so she has it available at all times. And this also applies Guard Up Medium. This doesn't help Liam, for example, but it will help all the remaining characters in the party. And there's also Shining Pierce, that is a Pierce and Stun attack that has a chance to debuff the enemy's intelligence by 15%. In some very specific fights, you may want to debuff in one turn and then do damage in another. But in my opinion, the best inheritance is still a Toyodar. That's a very impressive attack that can be used almost any turn, and if a boss likes to self-buff every turn, you stop and you will be able to survive. And for Time Lord and Kyling challenge on 180 floor, this will surely help and allow you to survive and beat without having too many hurdles. Well, Anya is a very strong character with her newest style, being capable of doing damage, buffing the party passively for offense and defense, and still surviving pretty well for long fights, makes her one of the best characters available right now. And if you have her inheritance of a Toyodar, she will be even more useful for specific challenges. I believe she deserves at least a triple S grade, but with inheritance I could say OP grade, but that's something that I want to discuss with the community, so please share your feedback in the comment section. Anya has a future style, released on summer, and this style guarantees 5 stacks of defense up with 5% damage reduction. She also applies 15% damage reduction on the start of each turn, and she can buff 15% STR, Dexterity, Agility, and Love when using rapier attacks, and she buffs 15% Endurance, Intelligence, Will, and Charisma when using spells. So still keeps something similar, but it's more geared towards defense than the current style that's more geared towards offense. You can still use both depending on the scenarios. The next character is Darius, and he is now a buffer with good sustain. We have 117% STR, not the highest one we have seen, just okay. Endurance and Will are very similar, above 100. He's not going to take too much damage. His agility could have been better since he's a buffer, and the other status don't matter too much. Passive 1, on the start of a turn, he buffs all surviving allies STR and Dexterity by 15% and also recovers 2 BP. So a 5 BP per turn character that buffs STR and Dexterity to increase damage potential of your party. For Remembrance, all Axe users are based on STR, so he's gonna make them stronger. Second on passives, on the start of a fight, he grants himself a fast stance, so the first attack will always be fast. And then when all allies are still surviving, you increase damage potential for everyone, including himself, by 15%. Then he gets another 20 to himself, and then reduces damage taken by 40% when resisting, and also has 37% chance to evade. Skill number 1 is a single target A power attack with just slash damage that buffs all surviving allies STR and Dexterity by 30%. So, if you open the fight with this skill, you are actually buffing STR and Dexterity by 45%, since you'll be using a fast stance. That will already increase the damage potential of your characters by quite a lot. And he buffs Dexterity because he is a protagonist, and, well, Liam and Anya benefit from Dexterity. The second skill, Advancing Charge. It's a single target attack with triple S power, slash, and shadow damage that can only be used once per battle. Before he attacks, he grants all surviving allies a hit up that increases damage potential for the whole fight by 15%, and then he attacks. With this attack that also grants himself this defense up that will stay for the whole fight, decreasing damage taken by another 20%. So he actually can survive pretty well, since he has 40% damage reduction if he resists, and then 20% damage reduction from the defense up. But this attack can only be used once, and you may even want to use this on turn 1, and then on turn 2 and beyond, you're gonna use Assault Command. Then the third skill, Clavis Assault, is an AoE attack with slash damage that before he attacks, he grants everyone a morale up extreme that lasts for just that turn, and increases damage potential by 50%. This will make the attack feel more like an S power attack, or even higher, and it's only used when you want to finish a boss. It's not fast, so it's actually pretty hard to use in the right moment. So I don't recommend using this too much. The best setup for this character is to start the fight either with Assault Command or Advancing Charge, and then just keep using Assault Command to the end of the fight. Because when you use this attack, 45% buff to STR and Dexterity is actually pretty awesome. You get lots and lots of damage. And, well, that's good enough for the character. Now, if you want to use inheritances, from his S style, he has Power Grab that will reduce the enemy STR with a guarantee, does not rely on his intelligence, and recovers his HP, but you require a Shadow Elemental X. Well, this could be useful in some situations, but most of the time it's not. From his first limited style, I believe the Boisterous Blade is okay. It's a triple S attack that buffs STR with each hit for a total of 45, and can be used as a finisher attack. And from his second limited style, he does have this blocking command. It's a support fast skill that grants 2 damage blocks for everyone in the party, so can help you in remembrance fights. Since he gets 5 EP per turn, he can use this anytime he wants to protect the party. But I guess those are the best inheritances, and he is probably one of the best X users if you have access to this blocking command as well. He will be buffing your party, and when the time comes and you need to survive, just block damage. Well, Darius is a very heavy buffer that will help increase damage potential for some fights, but he lacks something. For example, all of our recent buffers have something to decrease damage taken via their passives, like Scroomguard, Maria has, there's also Nawal's daughter, she has it as well, she also gives BP and everything, and there is also, for example, Muse. All of these characters have some layers of defense. So, in order to use Darius, you have to sacrifice defense and go all out for just offense. You can sometimes sacrifice defense to kill a boss before a certain number of turns passes, and that's a valid strategy as well. But he's not as good as the other options, and he is more geared towards Remembrance Battle, but with inheritance of that damage block, he's very good even then. I believe he deserves a triple S grade in the tier list. So Darius has a new style on JP released on the past month, and this time he is a hybrid of support for attack, defense, and can still do some damage himself. But he is very far from release. The next character is Candy, and he is a damage dealer for farming. We have 109% STR and 120% agility. Those values are not even that great. Forget about everything else, is not useful outside of farming. He has 40% damage increase at all times, then another 50% for 1 turn on start off round, for a total of 90% when farming. And by the end of a turn, if no damage is taken, he gets extra 4 BP for some cycles. Skill number 1, Spin Wheel, is an 8 power attack that deals blunt damage and has 5 BP cost, buffs Wheel by 25% on max level. This skill is not made for this version of Candy. It was made so that you can inherit into his other premium styles that are more useful for long fights. Especially this other one here that buffs ailment resistance. You can use it sometimes if you want to buff Will. Or even his debuffer style can sometimes buff Will if you want. Now, moving back, we have the second skill. That's a double S power attack that lands a row area of blunt and pierce damage. It's okay, you can use this 3 times in a row in a Dragon Stance EX formation, and he will be able to farm in some events and in story mode. In story mode, I'm sure he will just solo. In events, not always, but it's a candidate. The third attack, Meteor Kick, is a single target, 9 BP cost, triple S power attack with blunt and pierce that can be used 2 times in a row. You will not be able to use 3 times because of the cost. Doesn't matter the formation that you use, he will never have enough. So, useful for some farming, but even then it's not enough to solo. So, very useless in my opinion, and he can stun Kazinsi maybe, but for martial arts we have many options and it's not even a problem. Now, it's just that. You use him for row farming and he can stun. And pass on this inheritance for wheel buffs for other of his styles. Well, sadly Candy is a very simple and weak character design. He can work for roll damage, may solo here and there, but eventually just will not be strong enough. Right now, with the current tier list, I could say that he deserves a plain SS grade, but as soon as we update, he'll be moved to SS-, that's just the end, and after that, he'll be totally forgotten. He gets a much better style in the future than was released on the past month, where he can apply lots of defense boosts, morale down. He also gives OD gouge points to the party passively and recovers BP, while also having an extra attack that gives many effects on Overdrive. So he does have a future that does not rely on the inheritance, since we will have skills that buff more than just will. Now back to the banner image. Is this banner worth summoning for? In my opinion, yes. I will give it a Silver Plus award. Liam is a very strong damage dealer that now offers party buffs as well, while not having to rely on LP damage in order to perform. And he is also much stronger via inheritance, and even his S style can give him something. Anya is now a much stronger damage dealer and party support that will survive very long fights. And both characters will be very useful for Spiral Corridor 180 if you haven't cleared that one yet. Darius is very strong for Remembrance, but can even be used for full nuke strategies if you can sacrifice defenses. Candy is just a farmer and is dragging the banner down, but just based on the 3 protagonists, I believe you have some value here, but I will only pity either Liam or Anya. If you get them early, you can drop. If you need extra help on Remembrance because you are lacking X units, I will only pity Darius if you already had spent 10,000 medals. And then you have to do 5 multis. Then it's still okay to pursue Darius if you already have enough gens to do so. But aim for Anya and Liam. If you don't want this character right now, it's okay. You can also wait 1 week till you decide, because Anniversary is coming and they may release even better banners. And even though they are pretty strong, if you have the second Anya, if you have the past versions of Liam, he is still good enough. They will still work. But this is just an upgrade to their strategies, and they get future style, so they are actually pretty safe to invest. With all that said, this is my opinion. What is yours? Please say here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. I hope to see you soon in the next video or next live stream. Bye.